I have sat in on a number of these speeches because I did want to hear from the opposition about why they oppose this bill. I genuinely am interested in their concerns and their objections to this bill. And let me just read out some of the words and adjectives that I have heard from those opposite: interventionist, command and control economy, market takeover, corporate welfare, socialist agenda, and from the previous speaker, the member for Lyne, called this Orwellian, a utopian vision. So it has been an interesting study in their thoughts on this policy, because there is a policy that does meet all of those adjectives and those descriptors, and it's not the Future Made in Australia policy. It is their nuclear policy, because if there is a policy that is interventionist, command and control, market takeover, Orwellian, and sure, they may think it's a utopian vision to have more nuclear reactors in this country, but that is the one policy that is being offered in this place that does meet all of those descriptors, because there is no private investment in nuclear energy in Australia. They know that, and that's why they know the government will have to fund it completely. There is currently no nuclear energy industry here. So what they are proposing is a complete market takeover, complete government control to get their nuclear energy policy up. So I am so surprised about their opposition to helping Australian companies and helping create more jobs here, because it is clear that the only jobs they are willing to create, the only industry they're willing to back, is a nuclear industry in Australia. And it seems such a shame, because if you look at their social media, they wrap themselves in the Australian flag, they talk about buying here in Australia, they talk about supporting Australian companies, and yet they refuse to back this bill, which is doing exactly that. The only industry that they're willing to back is the nuclear industry. So I've got some suggestions for those opposite. If you want to trademark a few company names, Nuclear Reactors Are Us, CNR, Coalition Nuclear Reactors, these are some of the things that you might want to take forward. Because the truth is, we on this side of the House genuinely back Australian companies outside of the nuclear industry. And those opposite have offered up some suggestions for what might work in terms of industry policy and supporting Australian companies. But it's a bit hard to take them credibly when we look at their track record, because economists and researchers at Harvard University have done a study into the economic complexities of countries around the world. And while they were in government, did our economy become more complex and diverse and rich? No, it became less complex. In the last decade alone, our economy became less complex, worsening 12 positions. So countries around the world were trying to diversify their economy, trying to increase advanced manufacturing, trying to increase research and development, trying to support other sectors, but not in this country. No. Under those opposite, they refuse to back manufacturing. And we are now ranked 93 out of 133 countries, which puts us below Uganda and just above Pakistan in terms of economic complexity. Thanks to those opposite, we are the lowest ranked OECD country when it comes to economic complexity. And we have fallen 38 places since this index was created in 1995. So it demonstrates that it doesn't have to be this way. And this is what the Atlas of Economic Complexity said. Australia's worsening complexity has been driven by a lack of diversification of exports, and our economy is less complex than would be expected for its income level, given we had the 9th highest GDP per capita in 2021. And this is because of those opposite refusing to back industry, refusing to back Australian manufacturing, and refusing to back Australian companies. All they relied on was digging things out of the ground. And we are blessed. We are a country that is blessed with great resources, absolutely. But we've got to do more than dig things out of the ground. And I'm going to use, we've just finished up with the Olympics. We've got the Paralympics coming up. So I'm going to use a sporting analogy here. But essentially what those opposite did was they tried to create a team around one star player only. So in this case, our star player was resources. And of course, we had the Sam Kerr of resources. We had great iron ore, we've got great critical minerals, but that's all they relied on, that one star player. So of course, if that star player gets injured or becomes sick, or we're playing another team where they're able to really defend against that star player, well, we're stuffed. And that's exactly what they did when they were in government. They stuffed us. We don't want to just dig up resources out of the ground, ship it offshore, have other countries add value to it, and then ship it back to use their final products. It's time we started to add value ourselves here onshore. So why does this matter? Because we have seen that when you are not diversified and your economy is vulnerable to these big economic shocks, that it's the community that suffer. And we have seen significant global financial disruptions, the COVID pandemic, the wars in the Ukraine and Gaza, supply chain constraints. We saw what happened during the pandemic, during the COVID pandemic, when, because we had no real medical manufacturing onshore, we were scrambling to buy masks, we were scrambling to get rat tests, and we were scrambling to get vaccinations, which, to be fair to those opposite, their former leader did not think it was a race. He kind of wanted to stroll into that and try to get vaccines, and we paid the price. It was the community that paid the price of their lack of foresight in trying to build up an onshore manufacturing capability. But we won't do what those opposite did. We know that we need to build resilience in our economy, we need to diversify our economy, and this is exactly what the Future Made in Australia Bill does. It is a plan to grow Australia's economic future and prosperity, and it is a large, ambitious and bold plan, and it needs to be. And we are not alone in having industry policies. We've seen the Inflation Reduction Act in the US. There are industry policies in Japan, Korea. There are industry policies around the world. The only people who aren't backing an industry policy are those opposite. And the government's Future Made in Australia agenda, announced in the last budget, is about attracting and enabling investment, making Australia a renewable energy superpower, value-adding to our resources and strengthening economic security. It's about backing Australian ideas, our innovation, digital and science ideas, investing in people and places. This is an investment in Australian research, it's an investment in Australian manufacturing, it's an investment in Australian companies and Australian people. This bill establishes a framework to foster and encourage private sector investment in the national interest for a future made in Australia by seizing the opportunities of the changing global environment. And there are two primary objectives in this bill: to attract more private investment and to make our economy more resilient to shocks. We'll unlock private investment, ensure economic resilience and security in critical sectors and supply chains, and support early applications of nascent technologies critical to the net zero transformation. We'll create a positive investment environment and enable businesses to take appropriate risks. We'll create a national interest framework to support better alignment of economic incentives with our national interests. And the national interest framework consists of two streams: the net zero transformation stream, to identify and support sectors that could have a sustained comparative advantage in a net zero global economy, and where public investment is likely to be needed for the sector to make a significant contribution to emissions reduction at an efficient cost. The economic resilience and security stream is there to identify where some level of domestic capability in the sector is a necessary or efficient way to deliver economic resilience and security, and where the private sector will not deliver the necessary investment in the sector in the absence of government support. The National Interest Framework will support Australian government consideration and decision-making in relation to significant public investment that unlocks private investment at scale in the national interest. And we can see that there are companies that are already using Australian minerals to manufacture solar panels to put on our roofs. Researchers are making breakthroughs in science that will lead to new medicines and new technologies. And in my electorate of Reid, in the suburb of Silverwater, which is an advanced manufacturing powerhouse, there are 2-star residents there: Rode Microphones and Blue Glass, a semiconductor manufacturer. These are advanced manufacturing success stories. At the Innovation Oz 2023 Awards for Excellence, Blue Glass was named the Australian hero for its development and commercialisation of a new semiconductor technology. The company is a wonderful example of converting Australian research success into Australian manufacturing success. And the research behind Blue Glass was developed at Macquarie University. It was after a decade of research that they had a breakthrough in an innovative compound semiconductor technology that they were able to use to develop high-performance laser diodes. These visible lasers are used in critical and emerging technologies, including robotics, advanced materials manufacturing, defence technologies, and scientific and biomedical applications. The semiconductors Blue Glass produces lead the world with their energy-efficient performance. How were they able to create this product? With private investment, yes, but also with government support through the Research and Development Tax Incentive, along with government grants and early-stage revenue. It was a combination of private investment, government tax incentive, government grants and support that this company was able to be created, which is exactly what the Future Made in Australia Bill is talking about. And the other example of manufacturing excellence in my electorate are Rode Microphones. These high-end audio equipment of choice for podcasters and influencers everywhere is an Australian-made company. Its metal components are manufactured on-site from materials sourced from Australia and overseas, and they export 97% of their manufactured goods, largely to the US and Europe. And when faced with fierce competition from a Chinese government-backed company on their best-selling product, Rode did not falter. Instead, they innovated. In just 100 business days, a time frame that would make most companies balk, Rode went from concept to market with a new, superior product. This rapid response was only possible because Rode manufactures everything in-house, right here in Australia. And as Rode's founder, Peter Freeman, said, "I just walk across the road and talk to the engineers. 2 days later, we're making it." And that's the sort of thinking that we want to be encouraging with this bill.